Junior Achievement of Greater Cleveland and Citizens Bank presents JA Personal Finance, Session 2, Budgeting.
You weren't born ready. You were made ready. You're made of your music, your passions, a community you give back to, and everyone you've inspired along the way. Questlove's journey is always evolving, and Citizens Bank knows yours is too. Wherever your journey takes you,
right there, man.
we're here for you every step of the way.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alan Blumenthal, and I'm a Senior Vice President and Relationship Manager in Commercial Banking at Citizens Bank. I graduated from Cleveland Heights High School in 1982. And when I sat in Cleveland Heights High School, I had no idea I wanted to be a banker. I knew I wanted to do something in the business world, but I didn't really understand what that meant. I just knew I enjoyed business. I worked hard in high school, in college, had all kinds of odd jobs, and eventually took a job at a bank. And it even took me 5 years after I started banking to become a banker, a commercial banker. So I manage the relationships for Citizens Banks for hospitals, nursing homes, and higher education. And I've pretty much been doing that for about 25 years now. I think I finally figured out what I want to do, which is kind of good because at this point it's good to know. But when you're in high school, you can do anything. And my advice is to work hard, ask a lot of questions, take as many different kinds of jobs as you possibly can. Today, we're going to talk about budgeting. Budgeting's been very important to me. I like to budget. Maybe it's because I'm a banker and I try to plan out a lot. So budgeting is just as simple as understanding what you make, what you get paid. So at some point, when you end up with a permanent job or even a job now while you're in high school, you're going to make a certain amount of money. And a budget, you should plan out how much you should spend. So, ultimately, it's probably a little simpler now, but ultimately when you got a permanent job, you're gonna have rent, you're gonna have car payments, you're gonna have all kinds of incidentals like insurance, all kinds of other things that you might not even today know exist. Um, you're gonna have to pay for food, and certainly it's important to plan for some fun events. And I think most importantly, it's important to plan for savings. That again may sound like I'm a boring banker, which I take pride in being, but it's important to save because you never know what's going to happen. And we're going to talk about saving a little more in a few weeks. But just a couple of examples. My wife and I paid for our own wedding, and we did it over a couple of years. And I created a spreadsheet of how much we would save. We went down to one car. My wife moved home with her parents, and we saved all the money she would have spent on car payments and rent payments and all the other savings we did. And then we budgeted what all the expenses were for the wedding. And I remember my wife saying, because I'm a better planner and saver than she is, "Oh my God, we're never going to get there." And guess what? We got there. And we had a wedding that we were very proud of. And I try to do that with everything. My other advice on budgeting somebody said to me a few years ago, which I thought was really good. If you plan out a budget and let's just say you do 12 months and you do it each month, what your how much you make and how much you spend is going to be, and you have a bad month in let's just say the first month, something unexpected happens, something beyond your control. Don't stop your budget. Just say, okay, that was a bad month. I'm going to go back to my budget and I'm going to keep my head down. And I think that that's a very important lesson that is out there. Is just because you have one bad month in keeping to your budget, don't throw the budget away. Go and have 11 more good months, and hopefully it'll be okay. I mean, the best thing about budgeting is it puts you in a position to be the best that you can be. And those are my words of wisdom for today. Have a great day. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Taylor McGill. I'm a branch manager at Citizens Bank in Montrose. A little bit about me. I've been with Citizens Bank for a little over a year and a half now. I went to Green High School, south of Akron, and I went to the University of Akron for school, majored in financial services, and that helped me get my position where I am now. Main thing that we're covering today is budgeting. And the biggest thing with budgeting is basically it is being intentional and knowing where your money is going. So when you get paid, instead of spending it all on things that you might not need or that aren't necessities and don't help further your financial situation, basically being in charge of your money and telling it where to go as opposed to your money telling you what you can and can't do. So there are a ton of free apps that you can use for budgeting. I personally use the EveryDollar app. It is free. It lets you break down different categories of your spending, anything from your pay that you get on a monthly basis to once you have rent, car, any other debt, or necessary expenses that you have, getting your haircut, buying clothes, once you get to college, buying books, things like that. The biggest thing that you should do is once you get paid, you should pay yourself first. At minimum, I'd recommend throwing 10% in the savings account. 20% is a better goal. After that, you should look at what your necessary expenses are that have to be paid regardless. Pay those after you pay yourself, put money in the savings account. At that point, ideally, you're looking for 10, 20% of your income being used for discretionary spending, going and having fun things. Budgeting doesn't mean that you can't do anything fun. It doesn't mean that you can't, go out with friends, buy things that you might want. But you also want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for a good future. And that's where the savings aspect comes in. I wouldn't recommend, if you have a ton extra after your initial savings and paying your necessary bills, I wouldn't blow the rest on things that you want. Any extra that you have over, I would also save. Put it to use. That way you can save for things that you might not even be thinking about right now. Buying a new car, buying a house down the road, setting yourself up for a strong financial future, puts you in a position to where, down the road you have more of ability to do the things that you want, go on vacations, buy things that you want that might not be a necessity but a desire. And it's really difficult to stay on track of that if you aren't budgeting and knowing where your money's going, because it's really easy once you get paid to spend the money and all of a sudden you don't have anything left over to save. And it gets you in a paycheck to paycheck mentality that's really difficult to get out of. So I'd highly recommend getting a budgeting app. Like I said, I use the EveryDollar app, but there are a bunch of free ones to track where your money is going on a daily basis, or on a monthly basis, know how much you're intending to save, how much your expenses are, and then still giving yourself a little bit of room to money to play with, but knowing exactly where your money is going every month.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Nadita Letson with Citizens Bank. We just connected with two of my colleagues, Alan Blumenthal and Taylor Magill. Both shared great stories about their journeys, why and how budgeting has been important to them, and how budgeting is really about being ready to take care of or take charge of your finances so that you can set yourself up for a good financial future. And they offered some really neat tips too. I hope what Alan and Taylor shared will continue to resonate with you throughout the session. Essentially, my colleagues described a budget as a tool that you can use to help keep your finances in healthy condition. Today, we're going to learn about planning your spending by making a budget. And after completing this session, you will be able to do 4 things. Recognize the importance of making and keeping a budget or spending plan. Identify categories of expenses in a budget. Explain how to use a budget to clarify shared financial decisions with another person, as well as to prioritize expense categories in a budget.
More items on your to-do list than hours in the day? If you're in college, you know exactly what we're talking about. But there's one thing you should never be too busy to do, and that is taking time to make a budget. A budget is a financial plan that will help you make smart spending choices today while preparing for tomorrow. Budgeting will help you achieve your goals and prepare you for unexpected bumps in the road. So what goes into making a budget? First, you'll need to track your income and expenses for a particular period of time, such as a month. You can use pen and paper, a spreadsheet, or a budgeting app. After that, making your budget comes down to a simple equation: what you earn minus what you spend. To determine your income, include items such as wages earned at work, allowances from family, and student financial aid such as grants or scholarships. To determine your expenses, include items such as tuition, books, rent, credit card payments, and car payments. Then simply subtract your expenses from your income. Are your earnings greater than your spending? If so, you could choose to invest, buy a new cell phone, or simply save for a rainy day. But what if you spent more than you earned? If that's the case, it's time to cut back on your expenses and balance your budget. You may also need to find a way to increase your income. Remember, everyone's budget is unique and it will fluctuate from month to month. So use a budget and be mindful of your daily expenses. That way you can make sure you're spending your money on things that really matter to you. When you budget, you decide where your money goes instead of wondering where it all went. And there you have it, the basics of a budget. Now it's time to create your own. Go to studentaid.gov/budget to get started.
I have an example for you. So during this pandemic, I've had to come to grips with my budget. And I thought that it's probably better that I begin saving even a little bit more than I have been. So I'm going through my budget and I'm thinking about, well, what can I begin to cut back? Eating out. Got it. There's something about eating out that I really, really enjoy, especially getting sweets. Now, people who know me know that I have a hierarchy for my sweets. Top of the hierarchy are cookies, then pie, then ice cream, and cake. Now, I really have a hankering for cake, especially nut and bundt cakes. And if anyone knows about nut and bundt cakes, they're pretty yummy, pretty tasty, and an 8-inch round bundt cake isn't cheap. It's about $22. So I'm thinking about my budget, thinking about ways to cut back. How can I save? Well, during the pandemic, I have learned to bake cakes. So this box cost about $170, and the icing's about $2. So together I'm spending about $4. Some eggs, 3 eggs, 30 cents, vegetable oil, my time, about $5 to $6, compared to nut and bundt cakes, $22. $22, $5. $22, $5. I could save about $17 a pop. Easy enough. Now, cakes are pretty good. They taste pretty yummy to me. It was a tough choice, but considering my budget, I made the choice to cut back on the cakes and make some cakes at home. So, look, life can be expensive, which means that you make some tough choices every now and then so that you can afford the things you need, and buffer for the things that you want without overspending. So the solution is to make realistic list of your expenses, build a budget, stick to it, even when it means making tough choices about giving up something. For me, it's the cakes. So we all have to make choices about our own decisions on ways to save. You can look at your own spending habits and make some choices for yourself. A budget allows you to plan so you can spend wisely. So the first step in budgeting is to account for income and expenses. So let's review these terms by matching the phrase to complete the sentence. So income is money earned or received, including wages. Get in there. An expense is money spent doing something or buying something. And a budget is a spending plan for managing money during a given period. Now consider these terms on the screen here. Each one of them represents a category within a budget. Let's review each term's definition. Fixed expenses. Expenses that do not change from month to month, such as rent. Variable expenses are expenses that vary from month to month, such as entertainment, electricity, and groceries, while periodic expenses occur on an irregular basis rather than monthly. For example, they may be car bills, car repairs, doctor bills, so have you. Now, budgeting is all about making sure your expenses are less than your income. Again, the first step is budgeting, or to budgeting is organizing and keeping track of your expenses. So here's an example. Imagine you're buying a new phone and phone service. Some expenses like the service payment will repeat every month. Other expenses like the accessories you buy will occur only once and will cost a different amount each time. These different types of expenses fall into the different categories in the budget. Sample budget. Now, I'd like you to think about what you might include in your budget, right? So, under income, including monthly income, additional income, are there other things that you might include in your income? What about gifts? Even if they're periodic. How about expenses? What might you include in your budget? If you have a car, perhaps it's car insurance. If you have a part-time job or a phone bill, you might include paying federal income taxes or paying your phone bill, your phone service. If you're taking public transit to school, perhaps you will include transportation. And variable expenses. What type of variable expenses might be within your budget? How about car maintenance? Again, if you have a car, you want to make sure you place in your budget funds for gasoline. Perhaps you're charitable. Maybe you like to give to your church. So maybe charity is in your budget. Dining out. How about going to the movies or downloading movies on demand, so entertainment? Perhaps some of these things are in your budget, or you may include in your budget. Now, shared expenses. So many people share expenses with other people. For example, many people live with roommates and share household expenses or share some expenses with friends, such as taking turns paying for dinner, for movies. I'd like for you to go to the sample budget in the budget student activity form and begin to identify some expenses that might be shared. So let's look at the fixed expense section. Start thinking to yourself, what expenses might be joint between you and your roommate if you're living with another person? What might be an example of joint expenses? Well, perhaps some of the joint expenses are paying rent, all right? So the housing cost. You might have expenses like renter's insurance, paying for the internet or your cable service, some shared utilities, right? Perhaps even home repair or cleaning, things like that. These expenses might be shared. So when you're sharing household expenses with another person, you should also share a budget, all right? So develop a shared budget. In doing so, that can help you identify and clarify your financial decisions. Now, even if you have a shared budget, it's a good idea that you also keep your own budget. So if you have a roommate and you're sharing a budget, use that to keep track of your joint household expenses, but also make sure that you have your own budget to keep track of your own personal expenses outside of the shared expenses with your roommate. Healthy relationships. So there are several characteristics of healthy relationships. For instance, responsibility, equality, healthy conflict, independence. Creating shared budgets also presents opportunities to talk about these characteristics. So let's explore some of these characteristics of a healthy relationship. Equality. Equality is important to a healthy relationship. One person shouldn't feel like she or he is expected to pay for everything. And both people should feel like they have something equal to say, as well as to determine in the decisions that are being made. Responsibility. Taking responsibility for your actions is an important part of a healthy relationship, and doing so is empowering. It reminds you that you have control over the role that you play in your relationships, in addition to helping you establish your trustworthiness and dependability. Independence. Maintaining independence is also key to a healthy relationship. So sharing expenses with someone doesn't mean you need to share all of your financial information with the other person or let him or her control your spending. So unhealthy behavior can also occur in relationships. It's important to recognize that behavior that isn't healthy, it's important to recognize it and to address it. So let's review some of these scenarios and share with me what you think. My roommate and I shared expenses, including groceries. The problem is my roommate always has friends over who eat all our food. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of because I'm paying to feed my roommate's friends. What should I do? What do you think you should do? Or how about this scenario? My roommate and I are sharing household expenses. She wants to see my paycheck stub so she knows how much I make. What should I do? Well, in this scenario, if someone is demanding information about your finances, think about the intent behind that action. Now, as long as you're taking responsibility for paying your portion of the rent, bills, etc., maintaining independence is also a part of a healthy financial relationship. Practice healthy conflict resolution by explaining to your roommate why her demands make you feel uncomfortable. So, married couples usually combine their finances, and they need to share financial decisions and access to accounts. But if you are not combining finances with someone else, instead of just sharing some decisions and expenses, you should keep things separate, such as your savings. Practicing healthy financial conflict techniques can help people work through problems. So, let's get into solving budgeting problems. I want you to take out your student activity budgeting sheet and scroll to the section that reads Characteristics of a Healthy Relationship. Now, I'd like for you to review each one of these scenarios, or one or two, and then answer the questions that follow, perhaps for one or maybe more scenarios. And then let's regroup and go over our answers. Okay, let's go over these scenarios and answer these three questions for each. What red flags do you see in the situation? What unhealthy behaviors are present? And how can you use healthy conflict resolution strategies to confront disagreement non-judgmentally and discuss the issue openly and respectfully? So, scenario one, you and a roommate are sharing rent and utilities. The roommate has been shorting the rent amount to cover a more expensive internet service package that you did not agree to. So, red flags. What did you come up with? How about changing the internet package without talking about it with you and shorting the rent to cover that expense? Unhealthy behavior. What unhealthy behavior did you identify? Exactly, not allowing for equal decision making. Did you come up with some ideas for solutions? You probably thought about, explaining to your roommate why you are upset about the new expense and discuss that, or discuss whether the upgrading the internet package is an expense that both of you want. Didn't sound like it. But whether or not, if it's not, work together to figure out how to adjust for it. You might even discuss how the two of you will go about making these type of decisions in the future. Scenario two. You often pick up the tab when you do things with your best friend because she never seems to have any money. You never really thought much of it until you start keeping a budget to track your expenses. You are shocked by how much money you're spending on eating out and entertainment. So, what red flag or flags did you come up with in this scenario? Well, your answers probably vary, but the consistent one is probably that your friend expects you to pay all the time. And what about unhealthy behaviors? Right. This particular friend is not taking responsibility and is not putting equal effort into the relationship. So how might you address it? You're absolutely right. Discuss your concerns with your friend and honestly explain why you don't feel comfortable paying all the time. You might even discuss how you can do some things that don't require a lot of money or other ways you can make your relationship more equal. Scenario number 3. Your roommate said he will give you his portion of the rent the day before the rent is due. It's now 3 days past due, and he still doesn't have the money for you. Every time you bring it up, he says, well, he'll have it soon, and tells you, chill out, man. Stop being so uptight about it. Well, a clear red flag to me, and probably to you, is that your roommate is not paying the rent on time. And he's acting like you're the one causing the problem. That's not cool. And how about unhealthy behaviors? Clearly not taking responsibility and trying to make you feel guilty for his actions, right? Some ideas for solutions? That's right. Try having a conversation with your roommate to work out how to get the rent paid. If the unhealthy behavior becomes a pattern, or if you've noticed that it's a pattern, you might need to discuss new arrangements for how to pay bills. Or you may need to consider finding a new roommate. Budgeting with another person. So these tips may help you when you're budgeting with another person. So first of all, keep your own separate budget for unshared expenses. You want to make sure that both people have equal input into shared financial decisions, and make sure both people have equal access to any shared accounts. Now, let's get together and prioritize some budget expenses. Are you ready for this exercise? So take out your student activity guide and review the expenses. So because of limited income, you only have enough money to pay for 18 of these expenses in your monthly budget. I'd like for you to take a moment to review and select the 18 expenses that your budget will include. Okay, so I am going to read each one of the upcoming scenarios and mark the points that you earned, if any. And at the end of the rounds, I would like for you to tally your points and let's see who's earned the most. Budget choices round 1. So let's see. Earn points if you've budgeted for these scenarios. Now, note some expenses are more necessary, so you can earn more points if you budgeted for important expenses. Scenario 1. You need a place to live. Add 5 points if you budgeted for housing. Scenario 2, you need electricity for basic quality of life. Add 5 points if you budgeted for energy. You're saving for an important high-priced item you would like to buy. Earn 3 points if you budgeted for savings. You want to stay in touch with friends, family, and your employer. Earn 2 points if you budgeted for phone service. You need utilities for basic quality of life. Earn 4 points if you budgeted for utilities. You need transportation to get to your job across town. Earn 4 points if you budgeted for transportation. You need food to live. Earn 5 points if you budgeted for food, groceries. You were promoted at work and you need new clothes for the position. Earn 3 points if you budgeted for clothing. Uh-oh, accidents happen. Earn 5 points if you budgeted for home or renter's insurance. Uh-oh, you've had an accident. Add 5 points if you budgeted for car insurance. Budget choices round 2. Earn points if you have budgeted for these scenarios. Scenario 1. More education means higher salary. Earn 3 points if you budgeted for education. Scenario 2. It's a holiday weekend and you're ready to have some fun. Earn 2 points if you budgeted for entertainment. 3. Everyone is talking about the new shows that aren't on the network TV. Earn 1 point if you've budgeted for television service. Uh-oh, accidents happen. Earn 4 points if you budgeted for medical, dental insurance. 5. You really don't feel like cooking tonight. Earn 1 point if you budgeted for dining out. 6. It's time to do something about the ugly, smelly carpet in your home. Earn 2 points if you budgeted for home repair. 7. The couch fell apart. Earn 1 point if you budgeted for home decoration and furniture. 8. Tragedy strikes and a local charity asks for donations to help the victims. Earn 1 point if you budgeted for charity. 9. Lightning takes out the TV and computer. Earn 1 point if you budgeted for home electronics, computers, and gadgets. Hey everyone, thanks for your attention during today's session. I'm going to quickly review some of the concepts covered during the session. I'll read the statement aloud and you can help by filling in the blank. One important thing a budget can do is help you make sure that your income is greater than your expenses. A household budget can help 2 people itemize shared expenses. 2 people having equal say in shared expenses is a sign of a healthy or unhealthy relationship. Which do you think? Healthy relationship. Now let's match each budget item to the correct category. A weekly bus pass. Do you think that's an income fixed expense, variable expense, or periodic expense? How about weekly? Groceries ranging from $50 to $70 per week. It varies. So let's say variable. Birthday check from grandma? How about income? You're right. Monthly car payment, $150. Monthly, it's a car payment. It's a fixed cost. Let's say fixed expense. Entertainment, here you go again. It's varying between $20 to $40 a month. You got that right. It's a variable expense. Car insurance, yearly, $600. Okay, so you're paying it once a month or once a year? Let's say periodic. Babysitting earnings. Earnings are income. So that babysitting check for $50 is income. Gasoline, hint, it's varying between $20 to $60 per month. That's a variable expense. Oil change, $35. How often? Is that monthly? Is that weekly? It's probably every now and then. It's irregular, right? Phone bill, mobile phone bill, $35. Don't know if that's monthly or if it's periodic. Let's say it's monthly. Pay stub. So you're getting paid, that's your earnings, that's income, $300. Yearly medical checkup. Okay, great job. It's a periodic expense. So what did you learn? Well, there are at least 3 things that you picked up. You must make tough choices about what you can afford in order to avoid overspending. Budgeting is all about making sure that your expenses are less than your income. And in healthy relationships, people have equal input into the decisions and access to all shared accounts. With budgets, you're ready to manage the money you earn. Congratulations! You've completed this session, and we'll see you next week.